Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today I'm talking about how to work through old memories. So, let me start with the introduction and then I'll get right down to business. My name is Ruth Theresa. I have my own psychic company called One Inspiring Woman. I'm an intuitive psychic medium here in the Sugar Land area, and that's just outside of Houston. I like to communicate with my angels and guides to bring through messages that can help my clients in many different areas of their lives. Sometimes it's to give them a special message from someone who's passed. Sometimes it can be bringing through a message from their angels and guides. And sometimes it's to gain some insight into their career or business, or even assist them with getting control of their own psychic abilities. If you like my content, please make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share my video with other friends that will enjoy it. Let's get down to business. Okay, so emotional memories that can leave their imprint. It's really kind of a strange thing. It's unclear what events are going to come into something that's going to keep coming back to us. Sometimes we'll go through something and it'll kind of pass on, but other times there's events in our lives that keep coming up. And those are the kind of like there's a lot of emotion hooked in that, or there's a lot of emotion that came out. Either way, we know that emotional memories leave a big imprint on our brain. And it's one of those, if you were to kind of think of the same thing of something mundane that happened close to that same time frame, you may not even remember it. But because it has a lot of emotion in it, that's going to stay. That memory is going to be imprinted forever unless you start to unpack it. And that's what we're talking about. Our brain responds differently to experiences that are highly emotional. Our amygdala heightens your sense of awareness when you're facing a highly emotional experience, even if it's only a trigger from the past. And so let's talk about how to recognize some of our triggers. So if you start having a memory of something that happened when you were in school, and it's one of those, anytime that those scents or fragrances are around you, they can bring that up. Or sometimes if you're in a classroom setting, again, even if you're with your child and you're going to their classroom, this can bring this back up. It's kind of just triggering that emotion to come forward. Recognizing what your triggers are can help you decide which way you want to go about it. There's two ways to do this. One of them is completely avoid anything that brings up that memory. Sometimes that's not as possible. So sometimes we have to kind of dive in face first and kind of figure out where the memory comes in at and what we can do to fix or change or modify it. A lot of times people will kind of keep facing their inner fears so it doesn't seem so big or so huge when it does trigger us. We can start actually going into situations that are going to trigger our emotional memories to come forward so we can keep unpacking them and working through them. A couple of the ways to do this is to journal something. So when something comes up, to kind of write down how you felt about it, kind of like write it out. What were all the things that were going on? And sometimes because it was so emotional, you can remember like how it smelled, how you felt, how the person said something, the intonation of their voice, because it's like imprinted in there. And then sometimes people go through times where it's kind of like, I just need to write a letter. And I often tell people to write it to that person and write it to them as if you were going to send it. We're not going to send it, but just in case. So write it all out. Talk about the situation and how much it's affected you since that day. Sometimes it happens in third or fourth grade and we're adults and it's still affecting us. So write it all out. How did this affect you? And kind of even cuss it out if you need to. If you need to put some cuss words in there, or just let it out like, I can't believe someone would treat someone like this or would say something like this. It makes it better to get all of the emotions out. I will tell you, during this time frame, you should be crying or letting the tears flow, because that means that we're releasing that energy. Now, on the case, if you have PTSD where you went through something like a traumatic experience, that can be a little bit differently. And it's not just an emotional holdback, it's also kind of re-triggering everything that happened during that time frame. A lot of people that have gone through war zones have gone through that, or if you've gone through very abusive situations in your life, sometimes that can trigger PTSD. I would say with PTSD or stronger emotions, that's somewhere where you really need to be talking to a therapist and kind of getting their insight into what's going on. But make sure that you're ready to move forward. And once you start, don't stop. Keep going. So many times people will start therapy and then they'll stop because you get to a hard part. That's why you're there, is to work through the hard spots so you can work through them together. Keep moving forward, keep making changes to yourself and your energy to keep bringing yourself into a new healed state. That's most important for us. So let's pull in a couple of angel cards and let's see what our angels and guides have to gift us about the situation. This one's popping forward. Once you're focused on working through it, keep that focus. Once you're focused on it, keep going. Working through the therapy, even if it's a therapy session once a month or once every 2 weeks, keep going through. Don't let it stop, because once you start making successes in there, sometimes it'll come up a little bit stronger, but eventually it'll start going back down. But keep focusing on the finish line of removing it from you and not holding on to that energy anymore. Let's see. Music. Sometimes just hearing music can help you work through a trigger or help you work through something that you didn't think you could work through. A lot of people go through really strong emotions, thinking about memories. But if you're crying, it just meant that something happened to you, and it's okay to let those tears come out, to make that come out so you can work through it a little bit better. Meditation. Sometimes just meditating on it. I myself have worked through many traumatic events in my life that I've gone through a past life regression, kind of like moving back to that time frame in this life to work through that. So I can see it from a different perspective, and sometimes even changing how I worked at it. Sometimes even working at it in different ways. And usually in my Psychic 202 students, we start doing that and start working through old memories so we can kind of bring that to a new healed state, because that can really keep us stuck where we're at instead of moving forward. So let's pull one more card to get us a little bit more insight. Steady. When you're dealing with something, think about every aspect of it. We can really have a lot of things that can control what's going on, but once we kind of feel like we're in control and we've studied it and studied what our triggers are and kind of worked through things, we can work instantly of how to make it not so strong, not so hurtful, and able to work through it a lot easier than we normally would. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that I'm so grateful for your support. Talk to you soon.